Hi guys, is it crooked or is it? Today I wanted to do a video on my 5-star books that I read in 2021. Basically the books in this video were books I gave 5 out of 5 stars, so my favorite reads of the year. So this year I read 20 books. You guys might think that this is nerdy, but I actually write down each book I read in this notepad, and I've been doing that for the past 5 years because I just want to keep track of all the books I read and which ones were my favorite. So my first 5-star book I read in 2021 was Big Little Lies. I'm gonna be honest, it feels kind of odd going back to like the books I read in the very beginning of the year because it feels 2 months ago and also 2 years ago. Time isn't real. That's what I think we've all learned over the past few years, is that time is not real. Or at least it feels like it's not real. This book kind of has the reputation of being a mom book, so that's why I was kind of hesitant to read it. I mean, Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman starring the TV adaptation of it, so let's face it, that makes it a mom book. I absolutely loved it. Why am I saying that I love it? Like, if I gave it 5 stars, obviously I loved it. Okay, anyway. It's about 3 moms of like various ages who live in an Australian suburbs, and each mom has like a personal crisis going on. 3 women become really close friends. More and more secrets unravel as you keep on reading. It looks like a longer book of the way that Liane Moriarty, I hope I said her name right, I'm sorry if I didn't, I don't really know how to pronounce it, writes in a way that like makes you want to keep on reading, where like you literally cannot put it down. So I would definitely recommend this book, even though it has the reputation of being a mom book. Next 5-star read of 2021 was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is my favorite book of all time. Previously, my favorite book had been Little Women, but now Little Women is second to The Bell Jar. Sorry if you could hear the TV downstairs for a minute there. The book is basically about a mentally ill young woman who is having to deal with going into the workforce but not really knowing what she wants to do in life and having to deal with mental hurdles. I mean, the book's a classic. So many people have read it and so many people love it, so obviously it's really good. The way Plath writes is incredible, and this year she became my favorite author and also my favorite poet. As you might can tell from my bedside table, I have read also a lot of her poetry books this year too, so I love this book and love almost everything Sylvia Plath writes overall. My next 5-star read of 2021 is a nonfiction book, which I kind of shocked myself because like I rarely read nonfiction books, but this book is Cosmic Health, and it breaks down every single sign in your astrological chart, tells you personal traits about them. Honestly, just filled with so much information about astrology and each little detail of your chart. Since each specific star sign for each different planet is specified and each has its own section, it's very personal to the reader. If you or anyone else you know is really into astrology or wants to get into astrology, I would highly recommend this book. This is by far the best thing I've ever read on astrology. It's gonna completely change the way you look at all of your signs. My next 5-star read of 2021 was another Liane Moriarty book. Again, probably said her last name wrong. One is called 9 Perfect Strangers. Have I ever seen someone my age read this? No. Is it stereotyped as a mom book? Yes. Did I love it and did I read it in 4 days? Yes. I definitely channeled my inner suburban mom taking her kids to the pool this summer in my reading choices. I can say that for sure, but again, it looks really big, but I promise the way she writes, you're gonna want to keep on reading. It's told from 9 different strangers' perspectives, so it's always shifting, it's always changing, and it's about how these 9 people go to a health resort to try to fix each of their individual issues or problems. And the longer you keep on reading and the longer you learn about the health resort and about the people in it, you're like, oh my god, this place is insane. It's not scary, but it still has a little bit of like a thrill element to it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this one too. I don't know why I keep on saying I would definitely recommend this one, like I'm recommending all the books in this video. The next book I'm going to talk about is a book I have talked about over and over and over again on this channel, and it's Normal People by Sally Rooney. This book also is in my top 5 books of all time. Bell Jar and Normal People were books I read this year that have now been added to my absolute favorites list. Normal People is technically a romance book, but it doesn't feel like a romance book because it's unusually pessimistic for a romance book. It tells the two perspectives of two teenagers start dating when they're in high school, and then it follows their journey like as they go to college and into adulthood and starting to work and having to make big life decisions. It really focuses on the two of their relationship and ups and downs of it. I love Sally Rooney, of course. I'll read anything she writes, so another 5 out of 5 star book. So the next book that I read that ended up being 5 out of 5 stars was another nonfiction book, which again shocked me. And it was Heavier Than Heaven. It's a biography about Kurt Cobain. Even though I obviously love Kurt Cobain, I mean, there's a Kurt Cobain prayer candle right there and a Nirvana poster right there. So I love him and I love like his story and his feminism and everything like that. I was not expecting to finish this book because again, like I'm not that into nonfiction. I read it very quickly and I was surprised about how interested I was in it because sometimes nonfiction books can get kind of tedious in my opinion. I would highly recommend to anyone who's a fan of 90s music or anyone that loves biographies or history overall. I know thinking about the early 90s, like to most people, they won't consider it history because it was relatively recently and most people you know probably lived through the early 90s. A lot of things that happen in this book have to do like a lot with music history and overall cultural changes in America. So also if you love history, I'd recommend this book too. I also wanted to put a trigger warning for this book. Of course, it being about Kurt Cobain, there's a lot of mention of drugs and mentions of mental illness. So if you feel like you can't handle that, you probably shouldn't read this book. And the last book I'm going to talk about in this video is The Midnight Library. If you follow a lot of TikTok or YouTube pages or Instagram pages on books, you've probably seen this book a lot. It's been very popular this past year and I totally understand why. It's about a woman who's stuck in between like life and death, like she's dying I guess, but she's given the chance to go to like this other realm where there's a library of all of these books, all of these lives that she could have lived based off of small decisions that she made, and she is given the opportunity to relive all of these different realities that could have been her life. And if you don't love fantasy, which I'm not the biggest fan of fantasy books, the book is so good and I'm not sure exactly why, but I really emotionally connected to it, so maybe you will too. That's it for my 5 out of 5 star reads of 2021. It was a really good year in terms of reading and I hope y'all all had a relatively good year given the circumstances that have been happening around the world, and I'll see y'all in 2022. Also, if you have any book recommendations for me, please comment them below or feel free to DM me on my Instagram page for this channel. Bye!